A year later, after a groundbreaking vote in its legislature, Oregon became the first state to completely decriminalize marijuana.
Here is a state that is not afraid to plow new ground in an area where there's a lot of hysteria. It's not going to be very widely understood, but I think as you look back over the handling of drugs, if you can keep it in for a few years, you'll see it was landmark legislation.
In 1974, with legal problems of his own, Richard Nixon resigned from the presidency. A study in Oregon 4 years after decriminalization showed no increase in marijuana use and a substantial savings of tax dollars formerly spent on law enforcement. By that time, 10 other states had decriminalized marijuana. Continuing Nixon's war on drugs, fill-in President Gerald Ford ordered U.S. forces to spray Mexican marijuana fields with the military defoliant paraquat. But in the upcoming presidential election, he found himself running against an unexpected opponent.
Appreciate your vote.
I do favor the decriminalization of marijuana.
Can our government be competent? Jimmy Carter says yes. Jimmy Carter says yes.
Tonight on Headline News, President Carter proposes major changes to federal drug laws.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana, leaving the states free to adopt whatever laws they wish concerning marijuana.
Due in part to advocacy by the decriminalization movement, the government was finally preparing to abandon its war on marijuana smokers.
Hijo de la chingada. Is that a joint, man? That goddamn looks like a quarter pounder, man. Led Zeppelin.
Hey, be careful with that shit, man. Talk it up, man.
Kind of grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it? It was village, man.
Mostly Maui Wowie, man.
Yeah?
But it's got some Labrador in it.
What's Labrador?
It's dog shit.
What?
Yeah, my dog ate my stash, man. So I had to follow him around a little baggie for 3 days before I got it back.
That's some heavy shit, man. Hey, man. Am I driving okay?
I think we're parked, man.
Well, all right, you squares, it's time you smoke. Everybody get high.
In the permissive 70s, marijuana seemed to be everywhere. Through movies and television, it had entered the popular culture. But not everyone was laughing. Worried about teenage marijuana use, a number of concerned parents organized pressure groups to fight the new drug culture.
This is a dashboard pipe that fits onto the dashboard of your car so that you can put pot in here, and then the driver and his date can get stoned as they're tooling down the freeway. This is designed to put some pot in, and then you smoke the pot out of here. Now, you can toss a smoke to a friend if you want to, There are things like bongs, that's B-O-N-G. You put the pot here, light it, the smoke travels down here, collects, and then you get a concentrated volume of smoke by sucking in like this, and I think the label is instructive. Bong, the only thing wasted is you. This too is a bong. It's called a power hitter, and it works by sticking a joint here and then blasting it into your lungs like this. Now it comes as a Star Wars space gun also.
Hello, Gary.
Just put it in boxes and bags. We'll make a.
Y'all gonna have to leave, I'm sorry. And you are closed, officially closed as of now. Okay.
Most of the afternoon was spent trying to decide what actually were head shops and drug-related paraphernalia. Managers and owners from head shops around the area testified that the law is now so ambiguous that possibly as much as 80% of their inventory could now be considered illegal. One owner admitted he may be out of work within the week. But Judge... Okay. Most of the afternoon was spent trying to decide what actually were head shops and drug-related paraphernalia. And... Okay. Most of the afternoon was spent trying to... Most of the afternoon was spent trying to decide what were head shops and drug-related paraphernalia. Owners and managers of head shops around...
In the midst of this backlash, Dr. Peter Bourne, Carter's chief drug policy advisor, was caught up in a scandal involving alleged cocaine use. As the press had a field day, the president could no longer afford to appear soft on drugs. His proposal to decriminalize marijuana would die in Congress.
I'm sick and tired of hearing about all of the radicals and the perverts and the liberals and the leftists and the communists coming out of the closets. It's time for God's people to come out of the closets, out of the churches, and change America. We must do it.
Driven by a sense of righteous indignation, the religious right mobilized into a potent political force. After a brief period of tolerance, America was poised for a major swing the other way.
Leading medical researchers are coming to the conclusion that marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug in the United States, and we haven't begun to find out all of the ill effects, but they are permanent ill effects. The loss of memory, for example.
This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Just say no.
Just say no.
In her crusade for a drug-free America, Mrs. Reagan led school children...
Are police officers in schools to spy on
the
your
president
children?
today ordered mandatory drug testing for all federal employees. He then called for the nation's industries to screen their...
The Supreme Court has given school principals the right to strip search any student suspected of drug possession.
Citing a threat to national security, the president today signed legislation allowing law enforcement agencies to seize property from...
Under President George Bush's new zero-tolerance policy, marijuana smokers...
Using illegal drugs is against the law. And when you're caught, you will be punished. Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room. The rules have changed.
In a speech to the Coast Guard today, George Bush said that drug trafficking should be grounds for the death penalty.
I'm proposing $250 million, $2.2 billion, $8 billion, the largest increase in history.
Since President Clinton took office, over 3 million people have been arrested for possession of marijuana, more than under any previous administration. The United States government continues to wage a war on grass that, time and time again, has proven itself misguided and completely ineffective.
That being so, the orderly thing to do under our form of government is to abolish a law which cannot be enforced, a law which the people of the country do not want enforced.
I was raised believing that incarceration was expensive to the taxpayer. It was not in anyone's best interest to lock someone in a cage unless it was absolutely necessary. In the mid-1980s, a law was passed that allowed privately owned corporations to build and operate prisons.
I'm a real advocate of private prisons, having privatized half the prisons in New Mexico. And the reason for doing that is the same goods, same services at a third less the price.
Have we reached a point of building so many prisons that the purveyors are now looking for ways to keep them all full?
Here's the way a private prison works, okay? You pay somebody to build a fancy cage. Then you fill it up as far as you can get it, which is pretty full. Full of people that, the people that built the cage get paid $40,000 or $50,000 a year to just keep in the cage.
You have corporations like Wackenhut, they just changed their name, Corrections Corporation of America, that house prisoners, nonviolent drug offenders. As a matter of fact, I think 60% of the increase in prison population under Bill Clinton, which was like 1 million people, of the 60% of that new prison population are nonviolent drug offenders.
Now, if you've got 5,000 people in your cage and you're being paid $30,000, $40,000 a year for them, that's a lot of money. And if you can, on top of that, use them as your private property, as chattel property, that you can then make do work or produce things that you get paid for on top of that, what a great deal. Now, where I come from, when you transform a person into a piece of property, that's called slavery.
Not far from Bakersfield, California is a small town of Taft, once home to a thriving oil industry. But like so many oil towns across America, the oil finally dried up. Like many bankrupt towns, a private prison stepped in to save the day. The Taft Correctional Institution is owned by the Geo Group, formerly known as Wackenhut. Wackenhut changed its name after a storm of bad publicity.
The Geo Group is the leader in providing diversified services to government agencies around the globe. Our global expertise in outsourcing includes the design, construction, financing, management, and operation of jails, prisons, and special purpose institutions, and immigration and detention centers.
They trade their stock on Wall Street based upon the number of people that are in jail. If that isn't sick, if that isn't the best definition of sickness in a society, in a culture, in a civilization, I can't tell you what is.
I'm Tommy Chong of Cheech and Chong. It's like a royal title. The privatized prison business is